Hi, I'm Hart. I'm a JavaScript developer at Northwestern Mutual. Been there for about 2 years now. Previous to that, done Java, Groovy, C#, full gamut. Been in the web world for my entire career, about 12 years now. So today we're going to teach Alexa new tricks. Who has actually played with an Alexa app trying to create a new skill set? Okay. Awesome. So I won't bore most of you. But this should at least give you a good introduction and some code samples to get started. And that's actually really, really easy and makes it a lot of fun. So I want to test this. So Alexa, good morning. That's not promising. Alexa, what's the weather?
In Grafton, it's 42 degrees with cloudy skies. Tonight, you can look for just a few clouds in the sky with a low of 34 degrees.
Awesome. So who has an echo or dots or anything else? You can look. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to try not to say Alexa because she'll go off and everything, and it'll be interesting responses. Yeah, this presentation is full of like technical difficulties, so we'll just roll with it. So today we'll cover Alexa and like what conversational interfaces are. Chatbots are kind of a thing right now. Alexa is not a chatbot, believe it or not. We'll go over the Alexa skill kit, which is how you can create a Node app in Lambda. We'll deploy it out to AWS Lambda and go through some code and some demos. I have 3 applications up and running and ready to go. Talk about testing and deployment options. Also, Lex and Poly. Lex is AWS's or Amazon's chatbot. And then question and answer. So we'll see how this goes. So Alexa, it is an intelligent personal assistant. As those of you who have it in your own, you ask it a gamut of questions. My children even ask it where their brother or sister is hiding for hide and seek. Granted, she doesn't know, but it has become like an integrated part of our household now. So to play music, answer general questions, order pizza if you have the Domino's app, set your calendar. We love it for our hue lights to tell it to turn lights off or modes, anything like that. Pretty awesome. It is a natural user interface, so it means it's understanding human speech. And so that's kind of what we're doing. The more apps you create for Alexa, the more you talk to it, it's actually learning on your speech. It's called like a natural user, not interface, but something else. But yeah, so the more it's being used, the more actually it's machine learning learns to understand human speech, and that's kind of where its power lies. And only in like English, I think like German. Yeah, conversational interface. So what we'll write, so Alexa is a whole bunch of like servicing APIs that allows us to interface with the backend, how we pass like our text and what we say to the machine and get it back out. The Amazon kind of suite, Echo Alexa suite, is part of they have Alexa voice service, which is like the device voice capabilities, all the speakers, anything that'll produce sound. And then they also have an Alexa fund, which Amazon invests in all the voice technology innovation. That's kind of their sweet spot, that they are funding millions and millions of dollars into advance. So the Alexa skills kit in Lambda, like I said, it's kind of a self-service APIs, tools, documentation, and code, all set and ready for you to kind of put in what you want to request from it and the response. And then you kind of determine kind of like giant case statements, switch statements, what it does. And so, yeah, you are literally teaching Alexa new skills. And the more you write, the more you say, she's learning. And then Amazon is constantly creating in releasing skill templates. I believe they just released like a quiz template this weekend. So even if you're like, where do I start? Google Alexa template, fact, whatever you want. There are.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I know.
There's a mute button on the top of it that'll like stop it from listening.
Now I just need to remember to turn it off when I need to talk to it. So yeah, it's really easy to get started with the templates, and it's not a whole lot of code. It's mostly understanding like all the kind of speech intents and stuff that we'll get into, like what you're requesting from it. So Lambda integrates really well. So Lambda is like a serverless computer out in Amazon world. It takes care of everything to run and scale your application, and it costs just like pennies to run. I don't know, every time I run like my Alexa stuff, it's like 100 milliseconds, which is like a fraction of a penny or something like that. It's pretty cheap. It only runs when it's triggered, so when you send a request in, it'll spin something up, process whatever's over there, return it back, shut down. It's awesome for like data processing, file processing, IoT backends. It's kind of endless because you put all your heavy processing out of there, it'll scale up, it'll spin up, do everything it needs to do, and then like shut down. So it's pretty cost efficient. They allow Node, Python, Java 8, and C# as well as programming languages. I've only focused on Node. I haven't really touched the other ones, but that's pretty easy to get up and running too. The most complicated part of it is connecting all of the like UI pieces together in Amazon's world. If anyone has ever maneuvered Amazon or AWS services, it's kind of painful. So that'll be the challenge of the evening. Some more on the skill kit. So it's all kind of like JSON, like request response. You post the request with JSON, does something, and then it puts the response in the JSON, and it magically knows how to turn that into speech back out. And so as you can kind of see here, we'll go through some of this during the setup. But we call it like the interaction model. So how do you interact with your skill that you're creating? What kind of JSON are you going to send in? What is it looking for? What are your so-called like function names or intents? What you want it to do? And then you actually have to tell it like, they call them utterances, but like a list of possible things you might say when interacting with Alexa. It doesn't really know, so you have to mold it to what you want it to do, and then in turn, teaching it. So yeah, up here is like intents. I'll get into it, but it's just kind of like a JSON form of the functions, and then slot types we'll get to later. And this is actually saying like, hey, this is like a fact application, and you're like, hey, tell me a fact, a space fact, or any variation of speech that you want it to listen for. I said JSON in, JSON out. It does a lot of magic. You actually don't need to know a whole lot of this because there is a lovely Node SDK we'll be going over that is your regular good old JavaScript, and it turns it into this awesome looking request, and out comes the response. So hopefully you love JSON. Oops. So more on the like intention schema. So we have intents and slots. So this is a sample that you will find out on AWS if you're kind of looking and reading their documentation on what's kind of going on. I think of it as like the function and like the input to that function. So we have intents, which is the function that you're going to say like, hey, get my horoscope, and that's going to kind of start the whole process of figuring out what Alexa needs to do. And then slots would be kind of like your input, what variables need to come in that you need. Amazon does have its own types, so if you want date, numbers, anything like that, It's kind of a minimal set, but you don't have to worry about, say Friday, February 28th or whatever. Like it knows that's a date and it's smart enough due to all of its machine learning. So it has types, and then we can add in custom slot types, which we define our own variables or lists of things coming in. We'll go through that too. And then, yeah, everything is namespace with Amazon that they actually own. And then Alexa has different requests in the code that it looks for. Launch requests is when you want to start a skill. An intent request, which is going for one of these guys. And then the session has ended. So that's kind of how Alexa applications work a little bit. Speech responses, you can tell it to, the SDK is a pretty good section on what it allows you to do for responses back out for Alexa to talk. You have an ask, so it'll ask you a question. It has tell with card, so anyone who has the Alexa app or goes to the web page, some of the skills have little cards that have pictures or the response on them. You don't have to write it with a card. I love the cards personally just because of home. I know what my kids are asking, and it's where the humor comes in. But it's also just kind of good to know. It's a good testing feature, which I don't really have set up on some of mine, but and then the Alexa SDK for Node.js, which when I started back in April, May down the Alexa path, we were able to purchase it on Alexa through work, and so we got to kind of hack on things. And it was about the same time that Alexa SDK came out for Node, and Amazon did not actually have it published on any of the documentation to use it. So a lot of my original stuff was in my repos. I have V1 because it's the original request, the Node stuff. And now they promote this SDK because it makes your life a lot easier. And we'll go through some of that in just a second. Okay, we can pop over. So we'll go through how to create and set up an Alexa skill with Lambda. I have a simple HelloWorld ready to go, so we'll see, fingers crossed, if it works. And then I have a Minecraft trivia app. Like I said, I do this for my kids. A US Speak 1, and then a New Relic performance check, which is mostly work-based. But that's how I got started, and it's one of my more, it's not complicated, but okay. So bear with me. Hopefully this all works, and let me know if you can see the screen properly. So here is the SDK. I have a giant list of links for references that I can send out or post in the comments afterwards, so you have a good idea of where to go and just reference points that we've gone over. So this is the repo for the SDK. It has excellent documentation, and it has a big number game that you can actually download, and it kind of walks through everything you need to know about building an app, what all the intents are, going through the different emits. So, what are you emitting back to Alexa? So that's an ask, tell. This is all the fun stuff here. You can have her reprompt. And can you guys read this okay, or need to bump it up a little bit more? With this one, it's kind of nice because it actually hooks up to DynamoDB, AWS's NoSQL database, and this actually helps you save session information and persist state, which other examples do not have, and mine don't really have that either. So if you're looking for, start with a game, this is definitely a good repo to download, try out, kind of pick through what's going on, what's happening, play around with DynamoDB. That's kind of the full gamut. So it's an excellent resource to start with. And it kind of goes through like best practices. So when I said like launch request, like it's a best practice to have the launch request. So when you say like ask HelloWorld or whatever your skill, it'll prompt you, be like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. Like this is what you're supposed to provide Alexa. And you're always supposed to have like a help intent. So once you're in the middle of a skill, you can say help if you don't know what to do, and then it should go back through and either tell you, hey, you need to send me X, Y, Z, or whatever. So that kind of goes through there. And then this explains some of the state management with DynamoDB, and it is actually really pretty simple. So yeah, we won't go through this too much. So that's that. And first things first, how do we get this set up? So I have a few windows open, because it does take a few windows. So this is like the getting started with Alexa, choosing like your skills kit or voice service. And then I also have a Lambda console open, because we need to create a Lambda function. And then I also have a IAM management console open, because you need to create a role. So it's all fun. So once you get past the setup, everything else is pretty smooth, because then you can keep reusing your roles and everything. So we are going to get started with a HelloWorld. So we're going to add a new skill. And can you see this okay? This is a little bit more important than the repo. Woo. Okay. So here's where, if you know what you want to do, so we'll do a custom interaction model. Smart home skill, I haven't played with either of these, but smart home, I'm assuming it just kind of connects into different like home automation APIs. And the flash briefing, I think you hook it up to different like web services and data or feeds. You want to come in, and language, name, I'll call it Hello Alexa. And then invocation name is the, like, ask whatever, tell me whatever. Invocation name is like that name you want to call it. So let's see, ask or tell Alexa. We'll do HelloWorld. I guess this Alexa might be a little weird. And you're not supposed to actually have like Alexa in it. There's all this naming guidelines. How to a different page. So everything has guidelines, and everything is pretty long and lengthy, but very descriptive on how to get you kind of up and running. And so like an invocation name is kind of just what you want it to be called. You don't have to worry about the ask, the tell, the open, the anything like that. It knows that's part of this machine learning capabilities. It just knows, and then it actually is smart enough to listen for that text that we call it, to know like, hey, we need to spin up and start this skill. Which, I don't know, in my opinion, the technology is pretty amazing for what it does. And then we don't need to add an audio player. So that's that page. Okay. Here is our interaction model. Lucky for you, I have this up already. And we don't need to create it out of our back pocket, because that is a little tedious and cumbersome when you're starting from scratch. So we have a HelloWorld intent. So this is our intent. It's always an array. And then you can have like multiple intents inside. This one's going to be very simple, just so we can kind of go through the flow so you understand what it takes to actually get it up and running. So HelloWorld intent will eventually like match a function, an intent like in our code, that when we start it off, it'll be like, hey, I know where this is, I can match it, and so we're going to start and see what the code has for us to process. And then custom slot types, we don't need, we don't have that, and then utterance values. So yes, this is a very manual process, if you haven't noticed. We use some automation in pieces of it. And, oops, sorry, wrong spot. So this is the information for slot types we don't need. Utterances is down here. Next. Oh, and so here it's looking for an endpoint. So now we have to go over and create our Lambda endpoint. And then once we have our Lambda function, it gives us an Amazon resource name, a big, long, fun string that it ties the skill to the actual Lambda function together. So we will hop over to Lambda. Create a Lambda function. So this tells Lambda that, that the Alexa skill kit is going to trigger this Lambda function. So that's how it connects. We have HelloWorld. Testing. Ask. Skill kit, and then this will be fun. I'm going to show you this, guys. So the deployment process for this is very poor. I have options that you can dig into. I kind of went down a rabbit hole on one. They have like a Grunt AWS Lambda bundler that will like bundle up your code and push it up to Lambda. I never got that to work. My policies were wrong or something. It's a giant rabbit hole. I stopped. If you have time, I didn't have that much time to continue. One of the guys I work with actually has it figured out, and it's actually pretty nice. Or else like Travis CI, but then you have to wait for your deployment to get picked up and pushed out. So this is kind of good old-fashioned, hey, let's create an archive of our application that we built. So here in the code, oh my gosh, you cannot see the side. Sorry guys, I don't know how to increase the font on the left. But this is like Alexa hello, and it has like an index file, very, very simple, package JSON from the repo I borrowed from, and then like the speech intent assets. It's helpful to keep the speech assets, which are like the intents and the utterances, with your code, because if you put it into your repo, if you're not looking at that like Alexa skill kit setup or you test it, you're not exactly sure what you're supposed to say, what you're supposed to do. So it's always kind of helpful to keep those together, so you as a coder or whoever's bringing down your code or skill kind of knows what's going on. And then if you make changes, you can copy paste it from your IDE into the web page instead of, I don't know, the UI is a little wonky in my opinion. So I'm going to take a couple of my files, create an archive, and be old-fashioned. If anyone has a different experience, I would love for you to share it. Anyone has a different experience? Figured it out, Casey?
You can use the Amazon AWS CLI, and you can create
the pipeline.
Yeah, the command line interface, and you can create like a basic node script to trigger that to upload it for you, and then use like the command line zip as well.
Yeah, I've read about some of that. Intentions are strong, but time kind
Yeah,
of one.
that's a rabbit hole, so it takes a bit.
Yeah, it's nothing that you can be like, oh, 5 minutes, and I'll, figure out some deployment pipeline. Not really. Anything with Amazon, AWS services, nothing ever takes 5 minutes if anybody's worked with them. So.
With it being Lambda, also you can package up all the node modules,
Yes.
which of course includes any development module or any development modules you may have installed. So
Yes.
you can optimize that. Yeah, it's a big rabbit hole to go on.
Yeah, the ground one was nice because you could remove like all the developer dependencies, and I ran into issues with all the AIM like roles and policies and like secret files you had to have like on your machine. I will, yeah, perfect, right? I will share that link if anybody wants to go down that rabbit hole. Like I said, it is really cool. One of the guys I work with does have that set up, and it would make my life a lot easier, and I could just like push these skills out like a crazy person. Instead of like archiving and uploading. Anyways, so all right, we have our little function we uploaded. We don't need any environment variables down here. So one of the keys is if you don't have an index.js, you need to change this. So it looks for index.js at the root of your application. That was a giant, when I started, like a giant rabbit hole because in the beginning, oh, you guys can't see that. Way over there, it says index at the root. Here's a tiny script. Because I was working off of other repos that had samples and different like UIs for testing, some of the JSON responses, but the index was not at the root, and it had like a weird like grunt bundler, and it was doing all sorts of magic. And it took me a while to actually realize, oh, the file isn't at the root, and it's not doing a search. So one takeaway, make sure it's at the root. If not, change your handler to wherever it's located or what it's named. And then choose an existing role. So this is where you need to create an IAM role. Yeah. It's not like you can finish one section and then go to the next. No, it's like, all right, we started our skill kit. That's still hanging out. Finishing our Lambda. We can't finish that yet. And now we have to go create our role policy. Slow AWS. So they have a whole, excuse me, a whole list of policy names that they provide, and we need to create our own role. As you can see, there's a whole bunch down here. We'll do hello test. And then service roles, Lambda, and then filter for Lambda. We're just going to do this guy. They do have, like you can see down here, like Lambda and DynamoDB, execute, and this is kind of where, depending on what your deployment pipeline might be, your IAM role needs a whole bunch of these different like policy types. So that's where it gets a little hairy because it's not just like one to choose from, it's like 20. And that's where the rabbit hole comes in and trying to read and understand all the rights that these policies give you. So we just need basic execution, get you up and running. And the documentation does actually do a really good job to like step you through this. Don't remember everything I tell you right now. So, all right, we have our role. And let's see if we can find it in here. Choose an existing role. Do I have one HelloWorld role? No. Where did it go? Well, it should show down here. I really don't want to. Okay, it's probably because I needed to create the IAM role first, or else I'm going to have to do a refresh on this. So I'm going to cheat right now and use my Lambda basic execution policy that was set up already. So note to self, do IAM first before Lambda, so it shows up in your little drop down. Sorry for that. And then here's advanced settings, memory limit. You rarely hit that. You can choose. actually the lowest memory you can go. Timeout as 3 seconds. Depending on whatever service call you make, and if it's like kind of hung up on anything, it can actually time out. And so if you're like, timing out, what the heck? Always remember it's under advanced settings. You can always increase the timeout depending on whatever you're working on. Probably if you publish it, not a good idea to leave that at like 10 seconds, something. But really I haven't toyed with advanced settings that off or at all, because I don't really need it. So if you're looking to do something more advanced and crazy, by all means, dig in. And so now we have our Lambda function outlined. We're going to create it. Just kind of goes over like what you set. Yep, that's fine. You got your triggers in place. Yay, congratulations. We have a Lambda function. And now we have our ARN resource number. Big old long thing over there, which we actually need to copy. Because I can't make this easy whatsoever. So I'll come back to there. So now we have our ARN in North America. Boom. Now it should, you want to pick count? No. Linking will save, just to make sure it works. This page. Alright, it's updated. Next, test. So this is where one option to test, since we know it allows you to test the utterances, you don't have to put like, Alexa, ask, blah, blah, blah. It kind of knows what function we're in, the skill, so we can start right off with this one. I think is like hello, one of them. Yeah. So as you can see, JSON in, JSON out. We're just doing that. This is what our function, our Lambda function, actually created. To go in, and this is what it came out with. It says speak, hello world. And so in just a minute here, once we finish this, we'll turn Alexa on and see if it actually really does work. But this is one way to test like some of the utterances, if it's a simple skill, to actually verify like, okay, it is going to come out and this is the text it's actually supposed to say out. And then you can also like kind of like do voice simulation stuff. Haven't really toyed around with that. I have other ways to do that, which I'll go over in a little bit, but it's one of the test. And then this publishing information, if you are going to actually submit a skill, I did like a couple days ago. You know, the intent was like beginning of March, end of March, March. You have to actually fill all this out, testing instructions, because they actually can go through and test your skill to make sure it meets their like best coding standards, their best practices. Like I said, the launch request, the help intent, or some other things. They're pretty strict on it, but for good reason, because you want a good experience and you don't want your skill to crash or anything like that. Like a good description, example phrases, we don't have to fill this in. It actually does kind of go through a good like 101. I mean, this is set up so anyone, even if you have never coded before, you probably pull down a repo. If you're techie and you know how to hack your way around, you could probably get a skill up and out in like within an hour. So it's pretty fun. And then images, like they are really sticklers, and you need to have a 800 by 800. And yeah, it was like the hardest thing of submitting it is like, nope, you're 1 pixel off. Like, that's not important. And then the privacy and compliance, which is also fun. So we're not going to like submit anything today, of course. No real money, no personal information. It's not target children under 13. I don't even want to know. So another way to test, and I don't really have anything in here about security because I kind of forgot about it. If you want to build something just for your home use and not like push it out to the public world, The New Relic thing I'm going through, yeah, that has all of our like Northwestern Mutual public keys on it, applications that anyone could just like, oh hey, take your API keys and like access it. We're not going to publish that out to the real world unless we kind of have like our own kind of like secrets file that we could access. That's kind of like V5 of this thing. But you can just push it out there and make sure like the test is enabled, and it will live happily ever after on your account if it's hooked up to Alexa. And that's one way to kind of build whatever you want and keep it safe and internal to like your home, your skill, whatever. As soon as you publish it out there, anyone can see it. It's going to go through AWS's critical examination, get a stamp of approval, and then there's, you know, it's a point of no return. It's out there. So if we go back to our Alexa, oops, too far, we can now see that, hey, hello Alexa, it's in development status. This Minecraft one is in certification mode because I submitted it and said like, today I had to send an update because I forgot to do it. So they're pending. I kind of wanted my hoodie this time around. I didn't get it in January because I just didn't submit anything. So, so yeah, so let's see. Alexa, ask hello world. Hello.
Hello world.
Woo. Hey, it's a live demo, you never know. Okay, so, you know, a little bit. Yeah. So, yeah, the hardest part is literally getting all that up and running and connected to your phone, color like Al. Yeah, that's the biggest pain in the butt. But moving on, so I will go through. Does anyone have, I guess, questions so far to this point? Yeah.
If you have you published your skill and it's up there and it's like, you know, available to public, and you're using the Lambda service, or let's say 1 million people download and run this thing, are you eating the cost on that thing?
Yes, and they just released, this was a couple, like 2 weekends ago, their credit. They will now like credit you money for your Lambda service, especially for skills that have become quite popular, that they didn't quite think would be popular, and so yeah, they're like running up people's credit card bills. If you do Google like Alexa, what was it? Something about like crediting Lambda stuff. There should be documentation on the whole terms and conditions behind it on how you could actually be approved to go and then get credits back. So they are starting that because there are so many skills being published out there. And yeah, you know, you got a credit card attached to your Lambda service, and it's cheap, but for maybe 100 people a month, 100 people a minute, a little different.
Yeah, especially if they want developers to release these things, nobody's saying what they own.
Right, and they do, so they started a credit program.
Okay.
Instead of Lambda, I noticed it had like a HTTPS bullet, so do you familiar with that at all?
No.
You just point at any endpoint basically, and
When you set it up, it looks like you can choose Lambda
Or yeah, you probably could. I mean, if you had a web service to pull from, so it's basically just reaching out to the whole JSON in, JSON out, get a web service returning JSON. You can give it the right parameters. I don't see why not.
You need to have a valid certificate as well.
So,
You know, you gotta pay for that, that's on.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Sorry to kind of ask you to repeat things,
No,
but like I'm still not 100% clear exactly what the and some of the policies are.
Policies or like the IAM
Like
rules?
the policies you set up, yes.
You turn my 110%.
I've been using AWS for probably 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah.
Should I retract my question?
I have like security permissions, so like you can do this.
Okay.
So So like for dynamos, you can see there's, you know, like you got your full database access, read-only, execution role, Lambda invocation.
Okay, so they're like security policies.
Yeah, they're definitely
So
security.
it's like this user can access this particular resource, and then there's this exact company with XML based on their need.
Yeah, so you can group these into roles, and then roles can be applied to different users and groups. And so if you're into like security administration, this is for you. I am not. I try to stay as far away from that as possible because it gets really messy.
Okay.
Um,
I just wasn't clear like, what the purpose of this case was, so that answers my question.
Yeah, so for the Lambda stuff, I mean, there's a lot more like Lambda roles here. And just for what we need to do, we just need to like execute it, shoot it off. We're not doing any fancy stuff. And that's where like some of the deployment pipeline stuff, you do need like full access and execute because you're actually telling some external source like, hey, you have rights to actually upload this to my Lambda account. And then intents.
Yeah.
Is that a question? Okay. So hello world. So our simple intents, we said hello world intents, which actually maps to a function, which is actually the segue. So here for our hello world example is our simple handlers that we request in. So we have like our launch request that will, if you say like launch, Alexa, launch hello world.
Hello world.
So it went in and it does this, even though we don't have it on like our intents, because this is like automatic as a basic thing that it just knows, and it's built into, it's not part of the SDK, it's part of like the original skill kit. And hello world intent is what we actually added in, like, hey, when we say hello world, hello, whatever, it's gonna go here. So I say kind of like functions, it's kind of like this giant switch statement or case statement that is looking for strings that, you know, call a function. This is all promises, Lambda's promise fun. And so emit is what we're telling it to say, and this keeps saying, hey, say hello. Well, here's an intent or a handler that's say hello, so it's going from here.
And the say hello is like kind of the utterances down hello.
Say hello is not, so this is where say hello is not an intent. This is it's kind of a way to trigger other intents that you want to run, so you can have like your incoming parameters come in one and some different logic or something and another intent that you want to trigger. I have examples, better examples coming up because this is pretty simple and doesn't really make sense because this tell hello world could have been like right up here instead of passing it to a different intent or handler.
So that makes sense. So, thanks.
Okay, so that's hello world. We'll do a little step up. Minecraft. Sorry, I have like a sheet of things so did I forget what all my intents are. Oh, so my son is getting into Minecraft, and as a quick, just like, hey, I want to submit a thing. I just loaded up a whole bunch of like random Minecraft trivia and facts, and that's my skill. So Alexa, ask Minecraft trivia to give me a fact.
Despite their lack of arms, creepers can climb ladders.
So I don't play Minecraft because I don't know. I just get a kick out of it, whatever. So I have here. Oops. So I have like a fact of JSON. V2 would be like throwing this up into DynamoDB and actually pulling it down. But right now I just have it self-contained, which is also cheaper if you happen to publish it because you're not using DynamoDB time at all. So here is a sorry, that's not the file I wanted. So here's like the speech intents. This is pretty simple. We have like our trivia intents, and then this is just kind of Amazon's basic. Here's yes, no. We actually don't need yes, no, so I apologize, cut and paste. Help, stop, cancel. So if you're in the middle of games or anything like that, you can say stop, cancel, and that'll like end your session. What you're doing, yes, no. It knows how to listen to like yes, no answers. The big number game, back in the Node SDK, actually uses that, and help is kind of that best practice. That should always be there. So that is our intent, our trivia intent, and our utterances. So here you see the intent name, trivia intent, and then it says give me a fact. So this is how Alexa knows to map what you tell it to what to actually trigger and run. So it already knows we asked it for the skill. Minecraft trivia is what it's called. And then after that, these are kind of what I tell it, like, tell me a fact, tell me a trivia, give me a fact. There's only so many ways you can like word these things. So it gets kind of weird. That and a lot of it has to do with like enunciation is huge. And one of my apps I was trying to use the word health. Well, that's a really hard word to say for Alexa to actually understand, and everyone else too. And it kept saying like something hell, and I'm like, well, okay, let's find a new word because this is not going to work. So yeah, that makes it kind of interesting. So yeah, that's how it kind of knows what to listen for. We're saying in the trivia intent, and then in our actual index file, you can see up here. So this is the skill number, the Alexa skill kit number that it needs. And then this is kind of this is all part of like the SDK that comes up, that you export this main handler that you tell it to like embed the events. Here's your application ID. Here are your handlers to register. So these are, you can split up your handlers into different, I guess like objects if you want. Kind of think about it as like splitting up functions, you know, what makes most sense. You know, like starting is kind of what you do in the beginning, and then more like information collectors was just kind of things that running some of my logic, pushing, giving the data, that sort of thing. So here's, you can see that, you know, we have our help, here's our stop, cancel, everything's like goodbye. Help, like if the skill return this, that's just being like user-friendly stuff. And then in info handlers, as you can see, the trivia intent is hidden down here. It's really simple, just randomly getting a number, pulling it out of the array, and that's what I'm passing back. And then like unhandled, who knows what's going to happen. Sometimes it doesn't hear properly, so it's just, you know, like your catch statement. Questions on this? This one's kind of simple. And then, so in this one, I created for like a STEM event, and we're actually going to use this for another STEM event at work. I have a V1 down here. Oh, because this is one of my originals. As you can see, it's very different than what we saw in the SDK. And I have some public repos out there that I'll share. And if you are also inclined to look at the V1 or read some other repos, it's just much more, instead of having like nice handlers, everything's very separated in its own function call and prototypes, because that's just kind of how it works. And a lot of like speech output, read prompts, so you're doing a lot of things manually, where that now that this emits kind of does all this for you behind the scenes. So the SDK is really nice and friendly. You can wrap your brain quite a bit. At least I did in the beginning, trying to use kind of like the old version. So I'm really glad the SDK took off, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Okay, so I got a couple intents on this one. Alexa, ask Yoda about becoming an engineer.
Do great and powerful things. Become an engineer so you can. Yes.
It translates what you say into like Yoda speak. That didn't translate what I said because I have a sentence in it returning it. I found an API call. The one I originally used is like sandbox version. You can like put 5 requests in and then it crashes. So I found a new one that's not as robust. But some guy wrote it in like Python and he's like, just please don't spam me. So I'm not going to publish this one at all because I feel bad, but it's kind of cool and fun to use at the same time. Alexa, ask Yoda to translate, I am wise and
Do great and powerful things. Become an engineer so you can. Yes.
What happens when you pause? Alexa, ask Yoda, translate, I am wise and use the force.
Wise and use the force. I am.
So this is taking the I am wise and use the force text that I told it, sending that over to this web service, and it's returning it back in Yodish. So the intent structure for this is I have my Yoda intent, which is the open phrase, which I'll get to in a minute, which is using Amazon literal. So believe it or not, so it's a different slot type. You can't just randomly say whatever you want to Alexa and it's actually going to know and pick up what you're trying to say. Amazon literal almost got deprecated and removed because of security and listening issues and stuff, but there were enough devs that used it and fought for it that they decided to keep it, which I'm thankful for, or else I couldn't do the skill. It would be a little bit more complicated. And then I have this simple like engineering intent where I have like a hard-coded sentence that just returns what I want it to say. So this is where like I'm using an Amazon slot type, and this literal means like literally anything is kind of open, but yet you kind of have to tell it what to listen for because it's not that smart. It's not that open-ended. So the utterances for this are, so the Yoda intent, and then I preface it with like translate, and then I kind of give it like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And that's how it knows using this literal to be like, okay, I can at least hone in on this specific phrase or sentence. It can't just be open-ended, which is kind of unfortunate, but I also understand the more I work with this. At the same time, you can't just like flood it with sentences and phrases. It won't know what to do. So like if I say like I am pink or something, because I have like I am a green alien, it'll know to pick up like I am pink, and it'll be like pink I am. So if you use literal for more like open-ended items, just be aware that there's a whole lot of blog postings because this was going to be removed, issues around it, how to use it properly, that sort of thing. Yeah, and then like phrase is what the variable name is that I'm passing it in as. That was actually the name of, yeah, my slot type is phrase. So you can kind of think of that as like your variable coming into this function. So imagine if you had a variable like that, you know, like you pass in like arrays and objects and stuff. It's just open-ended. So this looks like the handler event kind of stays the same for all this. So does the start, because it's a nice pattern to follow. So the Yoda intents. So I said this is like a giant JSON. You actually have to pull it out of this giant object or object to actually get like here's my slot phrase and then get the value out of that big old JSON that was created. Here's the API I'm using. That's being coded, and then a good old fetch function to return promise, and then at the end it's returning my Yodish text. So it's not too complicated, but it was just getting this phrase in was the most difficult piece to it. So without that, it would kind of be, I don't know, like boring. A lot of the games are, you know, like the big number games where you put in like, oh, it thinks of a number and you're like 50 and it's like low, you know, like 80, high, that sort of stuff, or flash briefing, where it's very like one word or just a couple words focus. So, you know, we always push the envelope, so I like trying to figure out, okay, how do I bring in like a random phrase? Oh, you can't bring in a random phrase, but that's how you do it, semi-random. And then my Yoda engineering intent. This is where I kind of cheated. My original version in V1, I had this like in normal terms, and this is what the API returned for Yodish. And so I just kept it because the kids loved it. So, and I need to do that again. So that's why that is there. Questions on this one, or slots, or anything? Okay. Last one. And so this one brings in multiple intents. This is our one we use at work-ish. It'd be awesome if Alexa could like push out things, be like, hey, deployment failed, performance of your app dropped. It doesn't do that yet. So this application, I hooked up to New Relic, which is a performance monitoring tool. They have an open like REST API. If we pass in all of our keys and everything, it'll return data from our applications on kind of like the health of the particular apps. This was kind of how I got started into Alexa. It was like, hey, this is like a new toy that we got at work, and hey, we happen to get this monitoring system as well too that has APIs to play with. So this is how I started. And so we have like application intents. I'm looking for an application name, and with the custom slot types, I'll go back into the skill kit piece in a minute. You can, this is actually looking for like a list of options that it can be. Same with like metric. You could have like a list of options that it will actually look for. And then so I have my application intents that can actually bring in an application name and a metric, or one, it doesn't have to be both. Then I have a separate metric intent that's just listening for the metric. And let me pull this up. And so this is where in the interaction model that you set up, the custom slot types, here is my list of applications. So here's my list of apps. This is for like our client website. We have a summary page, insurance document search, and then metrics that I have hooked up so far to the different calls. Page load and overall. And so this is what it'll be listening for coming in. And then show you the utterances. So through the application intent, I can give it both, like what is the metric or the application name, or just tell me about this application. And then it's actually going to re-prompt and be like, well, what metric do you want for it? Which was also kind of challenging, but that's where that emits. Remember in HelloWorld, it kept going to like, go down to say hello, go down to say hello. That's like triggering the different functions. And here, so I did kind of hook up to a DynamoDB table because I do need a save session. Kind of funny, interesting story that I'm kind of still digging into. I'm not actually saving anything to DynamoDB, but yet because I have this, it's actually saving it to a session, but not saving it to the actual table. So if I remove that, I don't know if it actually saved the session. There are multiple ways that you can access a session through like the JSON, kind of like how we access the different slots. So that was something interesting I kind of came across. Anyone else kind of do a session?
So you gotta actually admit a ready, or you gotta do a save state.
Right, the save state, but I don't really need to because this doesn't, it's not like it can end and then continue. So So I thought it was interesting that it kind of just holds it for the proper session. I don't have to commit it to the database, and it was way easier to like save things. This dot attributes is kind of looking for a database column, and so it holds this, but it's not into the gigantic, you know, like 5, 6 line long JSON object. So anyways, interesting fact if anyone wants to dig into that. He's not perfect by any means. So here, you launch the request. So on application intent, I'm looking for a whole bunch of stuff, like do I have an application name, do I have a metric? If I do have both of them, awesome, I'm going to go and fetch my data. If something is if the app name is not undefined, so like if this attributes is not undefined, yeah, so let's save. I'm going to ask for more, or else I'm just saving it and saying, hey, launch the metric intent, which is down here. This is like all double checking because you never know what order these could fire in. I'm trying to like capture as much data so I know how to route things properly, so it doesn't get kind of messy when things can come in like any order that you want. And then like, you know, you admit like the ask, like, hey, I'm gonna prompt you for a metric for this app name, and then verify that you got it. And then we fetch the data, and voila. I'll run through this with Alexa, and then kind of dive in a little bit more. So this is like the fetch data call. It's looking for the particular kind of like hard-coded items. So look, and on here I tried like request promise just for fun, and because it handled all these like query string parameters and weird stuff that New Relic was looking for, and everything has to return to promise, so you can't use just regular HTTP requests. And then New Relic also returns a lovely, nice JSON object that's really ugly. Yeah, so this is firing off a couple different requests. Okay, so Alexa, ask New Relic about summary.
What metric would you like for summary? Say page load or overall?
Overall.
The health of the application is good. The error rate is 0 and the current browser appdex is 0.84.
So that went out to New Relic, got the data, parsed through it, and shot it back. On this one, I kind of had this written in multiple ways. This also was like, I have a V1 of this, pretty ugly stuff. But I also wanted to toy around with having multiple intents and kind of like reprompting the user to bring in new data on a different intent. I don't know, just because. So that's kind of how I went about doing it with getting the different application intents and then the metric. You can see, like for metric, it was only listening for whatever I said. There wasn't extra data or information around it. So, questions? Kind of close up. Okay. So I kind of alluded to testing and deployment. Another way to test is they have this Echo Sim, and if you hook it up to your Alexa account, it will. You can tell it's, like, hey, Minecraft trivia, tell me that. And so it'll listen like through your computer speakers and your microphone. So if you don't have your Alexa right at your desk or at home or anything like that, or you want to work on it privately, you can without having an actual device. So this is how I tested because it worked on enunciation. So when I was working on page load stuff, one time I came across as like Peachtree. I'm like, what? You know, so then you like started yelling at your computer to have the enunciation come across. So that would be another resource to use. I like using that one. And here is the Grunt AWS Lambda. It hasn't been worked on for a while. So I don't know, but if you're really into it, and I know you can get it working, by all means, it's pretty slick after you see it done. Then, so this, since we got started late, I'm not going to go into actually creating a Lex bot, but I just wanted to kind of tell you about Lex and Poly. Amazon has these released in preview mode right now. Let me switch my slide. But Lex is a service to build the conversational interfaces using voice and text. So it converts your speech to text, and that's how you can kind of build your own chatbot. Poly is a service that turns your text to speech. And so, you know, with Alexa's with your phones, if you want to create different like mobile apps that you talk to it, you use Lex to convert that, do whatever you need in the background. Poly will talk back to you. And really it's kind of like a whole new world of speech-enabled applications is literally like at your fingertips. I do have a link here. I was going to run through this quick. But if you want to Google Lex, get set up, they actually have blueprints out there that you can easily set up a chatbot for, like book a travel company, order flowers, stuff like that. It's really, really easy. Within a matter of 15 minutes, half an hour, you can toy with the chatbot. You can actually download the code in Lambda and kind of see how it all works to get started on your own. And that's kind of all I have. If you want to contact me, there's my email address, Twitter account, and we are always actually looking for JavaScript developers at Northwestern Mutual, doing fun, cool stuff. We do actually have a team working on Alexa applications right now, and some on our startup side. LearnBest is also working on some. So yeah, fun times to be had. So that's all. Questions?
I got one.
Yeah.
Have you done any work with states yet? States?
Like the persisting your state to Dynamo?
No, the states for this create state handler stuff.
No,
Okay.
not yet.
Okay. Never mind.
You're probably more advanced than I am.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm stuck at a spot, so I'm trying to figure it out, and I wondered if you had some experience. So.
No, not yet, at least.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So once you go through the process of how it is, still you can't actually control user access.
No, if it's public, so you could actually put security on the front of your application if you wanted to. That'd be one way to actually block users. So you'd have to implement that security mechanism however you see fit. And then like through the Alexa app is where you kind of connect your skill to the app, just like when you turn on Amazon shopping and that sort of thing is all through the app to connect. So that would be that piece.
I have no idea how it works, but I thought I saw something like they're able to do voice authentication with Alexa skills somehow. Thought.
News to me. It's still having problems with accents. So.
I could only imagine.
Maybe down the pipeline.
Maybe. I could be making it up.
Yeah. So
I thought I saw it.
I have a big list of like references and places to start and some things we talked about. The Yoda and Minecraft apps I do have on my GitHub account out there. So I can send this along in the comments so you guys have it as places to go find whatever you need, get up and running. Go ahead.